All right, I'm going to get this started. We're here on the February 26th Finance Committee. We have a quorum right now. I am going to move to approve the minutes from February 5th, 2024 meeting. All right, so since we're the only two here right now, that passes. We're going to start off with Resolution 2023-74, which essentially is to review and approve the City of Liquid's financial internal controls. I'll ask the committee how we want to go about this. Do we want to have the administration talk about how they came to this, or just go straight to questions?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, it'd be nice to have the administration kind of run through how they see the process and how they see the controls working, and then we can ask questions.
Sounds good to me. All right, who wants to kick this off on the administration side? Go ahead, Director Ekentor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this legislation specifically pertains to internal controls with regard to purchasing. It also outlines our new laws that pertains to competitive bidding and the border control rules. So the competitive bidding threshold is now $75,000, with items of at least $50,000 having to go before the border control. This is an increase over the $5,000 and the $7,500 that were previously in place since 1984, and it helps us be more nimble administratively, and it puts us on more of a level playing field with those items when we really need to get them. There's also additional procedures and controls in practice and throughout our financial policies that help ensure that the city's financial system is free of fraud, theft, corruption, and material misstatement. For instance, we prepare our financial statements that are audited annually. The process is just beginning now, and it goes through June 30th. Our financial statements also undergo scrutiny by the Government Finance Officers Association, who annually provides us a certificate for complying with governmental accounting standards. And from there, it also gets an investigative desk review from the state of Ohio. So we have some peace of mind knowing that the auditors provided us also with the highest award that they can give us in each of the last 4 years. Our employees also play a role in fraud prevention. For instance, all new employees sign an acknowledgement of familiarity with the auditor's fraud reporting control system, and our financial policies also contain a fraud reporting provision. And over the last couple of years, the state auditor's been vigilant about fraud detection specifically. So this year, I know all the council people will be asked again to fill out a fraud questionnaire and return that to them, and that's something we can't get without our audit opinion. I'll also add that all the city contracts are reviewed by law, and we need their initial stamp of approval before we can move forward on any city contract. So these controls really provide an overall structure for us, and they're broad enough to allow us to implement anything that we need to do with immediate action. In terms of how things work right now, everything may not be bid out like it was being bid out before, but some of the bidding out before was getting ridiculous because there's some things that we just couldn't get people to bid on because the amounts were so low. It would be administratively not worth it for them to try to do that. So I think it'll be more beneficial to us. We'll be able to conduct business with more vendors and get the lowest prices because we have this structure in place. We'll still require everybody to do quotes. There may be some threshold we have, say, we'll probably start off with, say, under 15,000, where maybe somebody doesn't have to provide quotes. We still want to see quotes, though. Quotes can take many forms, but yeah, I definitely want to see quotes from all the departments and division heads. And those quotes that come through from divisions will be looked at by their division head also.
And I think what this body was most interested in, of course, was what controls would be in place for the amounts that go below the bid requirement. And I believe that's contained in the second section, which talks about purchases below $75,000 must have 3 quotes or attempts of quotes. Well, how are attempts of quotes documented? Or how is that typically conveyed to you? Somebody attempted to make a quote.
Through our purchasing manager, so each division, Mr. Chairman, that submits, their winning, for lack of a better term, bidder, so to speak, they're still really all bidding in a sense, even though those quotes, they can take many forms. They could be, surfing on the internet and you find a product that you need and you're able to get it and maybe you need it fast. Okay, here it is. Here's my 3 quotes. So we want to have 3 quotes or attempt to get those quotes. And once we have that, we know that's something that we feel confident about signing off on. If for some reason the lowest bid maybe is not accepted, we want to know why it wasn't the lowest bid, because our ordinance provides for us to get the lowest and best. So let's start with the lowest. Okay, if you're not going to pick the lowest, why wasn't the lowest picked? And there's certainly many circumstances where we don't necessarily want the lowest bid because we want the best bid, and it's just up to them to be able to explain why that's the lowest bid. That's something their director's going to sign off on, and then it's also going to come through finance. Well, I'll take particular interest, I believe, in those that are not the lowest bids.
Right. And how does someone show that they made an attempt to get a quote, but they couldn't find 3 quotes? Do they just say attempted 3 calls and you call back, or how's that
I
conveyed?
always like to see it documented in email form. So if there's certain businesses that have tried, that we've done business with in the past, and we have a list for those, and we do have many lists for all the different organizations and businesses that we do business with, and if they come back and they don't have anything, or maybe they'll say, yeah, I don't want to bid on this, to me that will suffice. Do like to get as much out there as we can. A lot of these items, if remember, part of the reason we're passing this also is because we really want to be able to react and get things that we need. If a pump breaks down at the pool and we need it, well, I don't want him to have to, close the pool for 5 days or 2 weeks while we're, trying to bid out, this pump for $5,000 or $10,000, whatever that is. If he finds something, I'm talking about the Public Works Director, and we can get that quickly. I want us to be able to do that.
Yeah, thank you. A couple questions. I think this is very good, and appreciate. I know working through the ordinance, and I agree, with kind of the intent of the administration, which is that, to prepare a whole bid, is like from the finance department putting together the specifications for it, and then staff putting it out there, and then for a contractor or a supplier to have to respond to a bid for everything over $5,000 is pretty onerous. So I think we're just kind of aligning the city with where other public entities already are. I know in my day job, we have a similar, if it's under $75,000, you just need to get 3 quotes, provide those quotes to the finance department, justify kind of what you're doing, and then it goes through. What I'm curious about it, if there's, and it might not be here, but is there a distinction between goods and services? So, for example, you're allowed to select, goods should be lowest and best, but services, you can do a qualifications-based selection if you want to, particularly for professional services, design professionals, accountants, lawyers. Can you explain if that's captured here and kind of what we do in those instances?
There's a provision actually in the ordinance. It kind of, not this ordinance, but already provided for, that kind of goes through which ones are exempt from that. For instance, law, contracts. We pick whoever we think is going to be best. So if it's going to work sort of the same way. If each division head decides, hey, here's 3 vendors I have, and it's for these services, what's actually going to play into that? you know, to me, again, if it's not the lowest, I just want to know why. What's the reason? So you should have some kind of reason that's stated and well thought out, and if I have that and that's reasonable, I think they get a pass for that. But it's got to be there.
So is there, say for example, when, you know, the Public Works Department wants to get an engineer on board for, you know, some project. Now, I think that they put out a request for qualifications and then shortlist and then ask for a proposal from who they deem to be the most qualified. Is that how we do it, or is it something different?
That's exactly how we do it.
Okay. So this is more so for non-professional services and goods?
Mostly.
Okay.
But it's really here for everything, though. It covers everything.
Okay, yeah, but I don't see much about professional services, but I understand your point that it's in the code, you know, how we can, and then Ohio law also governs how we can do that. And then, you know, understanding kind of the intent of this document, is this document, like, is this handed to Fleet and then this is their kind of step-by-step guide as to how to follow the rules, or is there like more of a purchasing manual that they look at or different flow charts?
This is just like some general rules that we have that we're going to follow. I think we're going to put out like a separate communication to everybody that just kind of rolls this all out, describes the process to everybody. Maybe we'll even have a form that people fill out to say, okay, how'd you come up with this? And, you know, those are the kind of things we're working through now.
Thank you. And so, you know, from council's perspective, I think this kind of like lays out controls that are in place, aligns with the ordinance. I think this is acceptable. I would ask that, you know, once you kind of get those flow charts, I just, you know, if you could send them to council, it's council staff, and just, I'd be interested in looking at them. Don't want to, you know, be too opinionated, but maybe if I see something big, I'd bring it to your attention. Secondly, can you explain the sole source process and kind of how you determine that?
We kind of have to listen to what each director is telling us. So I'm thinking of Axon body cameras. I mean, who's going to be able to provide those other than Axon? You know, all of our infrastructure is kind of set such that, you know, we have to use those. Otherwise, we're going to have dissimilar communication tools, and they're not going to be able to talk to each other, and that would be a bad thing for us.
That comes up a lot with water treatment chemicals. Right? There's usually one place you can get certain things for treatment. Right?
Yes.
Yeah, Chris?
Excuse me. Yeah, that is correct. And in different situations, whether it's pumps or certain pieces of equipment, there may only be one local vendor that can provide that service or that good. But we will always do our due diligence in Public Works to do the research necessary.
So timeliness will be a factor in, you know, the decision making too. So if Public Works needs something quickly, we just want to be able to react for that.
All right, any other questions or comments from other council members? No? All right, so no comments. I'm going to move to recommend this to council for approval. As approved.
Second.
All right, and therefore that passes. Now, I'm just going to move to excuse the absence of Tom Bullock. You're cool with that?
I'll second that.
All right,
motion.
that happens. Can't hear me? Oh, in the video? Well, I don't say anything important anyway. All right, I'm sure everybody's very disappointed that Tom's not here. Okay, let's go to capital lease program. It's on the board already.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. So this has to deal with Ordinance 2024-06. This is our capital lease program presentation. I'm going to be the leadoff hitter for some of the program history and the numbers, and I'm going to pass the baton over back to Director Gordon to take care of the rest of it, and he'll talk about the need for the vehicles, the progress we've made with some of our equipment and vehicles over the last 4 years in terms of sustainability. And when we speak of sustainability, there's really 3 pillars of sustainability. There's social sustainability, which is really handled for us, like through Chad and Laura over at Cove and the Anti-Racism Task Force and through HR. And then there's economic sustainability and, of course, environmental. I'm, of course, focused on the economic portion of the sustainability with understanding that there's an environmental sustainability component that we seek to advance here in Lakewood. So we try to balance out these components. And Director Gordon's portion of the presentation will be focused on the city's equipment needs. We'll point out the accomplishments that we've made in terms of environmental sustainability and the path we're headed on going forward. So slide 2, this ordinance was introduced February 5th. It pertains to the capital lease program. Again, we analyze and try to upgrade the fleet annually, and this is important because these are vehicles and equipment that are used in the city's daily operation. In the budget process, we typically identify our fleet needs, and our needs are outlined in a 5-year capital plan. We schedule those vehicles in the plan, and then we move them up and back based on our overall budget discussion and the intel that we get from Public Works. That's namely James Holman and Director Gordon. And I'll add that the fire department also has an apparatus committee and that's tasked with identifying their capital needs, and that information gets passed along to finance, and we've been in contact a lot more with them over the past couple of years especially. Slides 3 and 4 is an overall identifies the overall capital lease amounts and interest rates, so you can see the range that we've been in over the last 9 years. The interest rates have been 0.73%. Last year we were getting close to 7%. And on the next slide really focuses on the past 5 years. In terms of the amount of our annual lease program, we normally like to stay within the $1.5 to $2 million range. However, this year we're definitely over that, considering nearly $1.4 million is going for the fire truck and the fireboat. So those are events that don't often happen. Although we could try to limit these amounts in the future, I think there's definitely been some inflationary pressures that we're seeing, and we've been trying to combat that. For instance, we mitigated the amount of the 2024 lease program by paying cash for some items like the boat. We've made the down payment for that at the year end with that legislation. And we did that because in terms of rates, last year the rates were so unpalatably high, we looked at our on-hand resources and chose to pay cash, especially considering our current debt loads. There's a couple of factors that go into that, and the debt load's always a part of the discussion in any conversation that we have that involves large capital needs, as Moody's and the investment community are keenly in tune to our debt load, and we don't want to lose our current bond rating. We'd have to pay even more interest costs if our bond rating were to go down. We're currently at AA2, and metrically we score out as a AA3, and just because they like our management and our financial management, they grade us a little bit higher on the scorecard perhaps than what the metrics would otherwise tell us. In terms of budgetary challenges, they include rampant inflation. We've seen that really since COVID's been here. Part of the inflation's been for the demand in new vehicles, and part of the demand for new vehicles has created supply chain issues. So when we order this equipment, we don't often get it for a long period of time, which oftentimes goes into the next accounting period. In the past, I've never recalled any situation like this really happening. It's definitely a COVID era issue. And so demand becomes like a two-headed beast in that we also have our own demand for equipment, and we really have to judiciously decide, what's in the lineup each year based on financial feasibility. We do that each year in our budget discussions that we have, especially for capital items. We'll have those numerous times and trying to work out, which items we're definitely going to purchase. And the remaining two issues we've talked about are economic sustainability issues for sure, and that's our debt load management and also the interest rate environment that we're in. So I just, before I hand it over to Director Gordon, I wanted to point out what's on the menu for 2024 in terms of capital leases. The largest items are the fire engine. There's also police cars that continue to be more of a trend of the hybrid in the fleet, along with a lot of large public works equipment. And with that, I'd just like to pass it over to Chris, and he'll talk a little bit about our accomplishments from an economic sustainability standpoint and where we're headed. Director Gordon.
Thank you, Peter. On this slide here, you can see the vehicles that the fire department and police department both have personnel here tonight to answer any questions you all may have. Looking at the vehicles they're looking to purchase this year, the first being a fire commander vehicle, animal control truck, and then the Lakewood Police Department with 3 hybrid patrol vehicles and 2 non-hybrid canine vehicles. And then the last vehicle listed on this slide is the Office of Aging Transport Bus, which James Holman and Chad Berry are here to answer any questions with that. Please keep in mind that bus itself was grant funded, so the options were pretty strict with that. The next set of equipment is the refuse rear load packer, the refuse automated side load packer, and then the forestry brush chipper. The last set of vehicles is the sewer department 1-ton dump truck, the sewer department 5-ton dump truck, and then the streets department salt truck. So you can see here through the Mayor George administration, you can see that the alternative fuel vehicles have increased every year since 2020. As you can see in 2020, it was 1, in 21 it was 4, 22, 13, 23, 16, and current as of February 2024, it was at 20. So you can see the trend has continued to rise, which I think is a great accomplishment under the Mayor George administration. So over the past few weeks, I've reached out to other cities just to get a scope of what's out there in regards to what other cities are doing in regards to their EV. I talked with the city of Oberlin, Athens, Delaware, Shaker Heights, Cleveland Heights, Delaware County, Cuyahoga County, ODOT, the city of Charleston, South Carolina, and the city of Seattle, Washington. And in speaking with each of the cities, these are pretty much the 6 factors that I found common with each city. Overall, most of the cities do not have large or larger electric vehicles in their public works department. What I found with the majority of the cities was when it came to EV, it was smaller vehicles, sedans, things of that nature, and things that we use in our parks, Kubotas, which we used electric before, and things of that nature. Most cities were concerned over the cost, efficiency and dependability. They said in my discussions with them, they were weighing how cost efficient it really was as compared to other options. And that leads to the next point, which was the cost of EV versus diesel, which is something that we continue to consider every year in trying to be as cost efficient as possible. There were concerns in my discussions with other cities over the cost of training as well, which was something that I had a bit of a concern with. It seems to be pretty common in the other public works department that they're just trying to stay up with the hybrid industry with their mechanics. And bringing in EV brings in another set of challenges, of course. And then the concerns over lack of support for EV for the larger trucks. We had multiple discussions with some of our more local large truck distributors in the area, and it was very common in that the market just wasn't there yet. And in speaking with other cities outside the state, that was the same line I was getting from them as well. And then there was apprehensions about reliability and charging capabilities. In our conversations with Charleston, South Carolina, they had purchased multiple EV refuse vehicles, and they said they were having some issues with having to charge them during the day. So again, these are just some findings that we found and things of that nature. So some of the challenges that we have identified with EV and things of that nature. The city buildings have limited capacity to charge EV vehicles. We've done our own research internally of all the city buildings when it comes to their electric capacity, and we have found that the capacity is limited. Cost would be a factor, underground utilities, things of that nature. And parking is limited for charging at Public Works. If you've ever come here on a Monday, the parking lot behind us is pretty full. I've had employees come to my office on numerous occasions complaining or giving their opinion on having a parking spot. So if we were to explore EV and setting up chargers, after speaking with Fire Marshal Fairbanks, he was not the biggest fan of having the EV chargers inside. Those would need to be located outside. The challenges we had were with dealership support. Some of the local dealers, as I said in my previous slide, it wasn't there yet in regards to the larger vehicles. The lack of training, as I said in my previous slide, we're trying to just get our mechanics up to speed with the hybrid industry. Bringing in EV brings a lot of other challenges as well. As I said a few moments ago, concerns with indoor EV charging stations. Although I can beg Fire Marshal Fairbanks as much as possible and try to ask him out to lunch, I'm not quite sure he's going to change his opinion in regards to indoor EV charging stations. Potential loss of power. We would need to explore upgrading our generators that we have now for charging during power outages, because we would certainly want to make sure all of the Public Works vehicles are at full power. And then, as I said before, we're still a little hesitant with the dependability. I know there's arguments to both sides as to whether it's there or whether it's not there, but we do obviously have our concerns on that side. So as I said, the challenges to large EV trucks, in our research and my discussions with multiple other cities and counties, the market at this time just does not support large EV trucks, meaning dump trucks. As I said, we spoke with some of the larger distributors in this area, and it's just not there yet. The Animal Warden truck, the capacity was not available in EV with that either. So just providing, reasons as to why these options have not been explored as of yet. Now for the good part. For steps taken that the Public Works Department has already done. We're currently piloting 2 solar streetlights, one at Isaac Warren Pocket Park and one at the dog park entrance down at Valley Parkway. I will admit we're still going through our I wouldn't say struggles, but our learning process with them, but we're continuing to move forward. Within the Public Works Department, we've purchased this year 4 battery-powered, or in the past year, 4 battery-operated weed whackers, 1 battery-powered hedge trimmer, 1 battery-powered edger, 2 battery-powered snow blowers, 2 battery-powered vacuums, which I think all of you should buy. They work excellent. And at the recycling center, we've purchased a battery-powered lawnmower, backpack blower, weed whacker, and with the new refuse and recycling center, an addition of EV charger. Also, upgrade-wise, over the past at least year of me being here, we've upgraded the VAV boxes at Fire Station 1 to make that become more efficient. We're currently upgrading HVAC controls at the municipal utility garage. We continue to invest capital money into replacing roofs every year, whether it's at Winterhurst or Fire Station 1. We updated the incoming electrical service to the new refuse and recycling building to potentially handle EV down the road. We installed a portable level 2 charger in the fleet garage. We installed a portable level 2 charger in the street garage. And we've built, programmed, and installed various traffic signs and signals. Also at the wastewater treatment center, we continue to generate electricity from the methane gas to supplement utility power while we're down there. So when running, it provides an estimated 20 to 30% power. And in the winter, it's used to assist heating the wastewater treatment plant itself. The plant also has all LED lights in the facility, and we continue to replace those as needed. James has done a great job with converting B20 biodiesel as used during warmer temperatures for the fleet, so we continue to upgrade there as well. We deployed 5 hybrid SUVs in the fleet in 2023, which is used by the police patrol and the neighborhood paramedic, and we accepted delivery and deployed 2 all-electric utility carts for use by the park security. We continue to do leak detection within our water department, utilizing a contractor for leak inspections. We also monitor residents' usage through analysis of monthly billing. So one of the things we do while we're down there to really focus in on water usage is if a resident goes over their average usage per month, Public Works does their best to notify them. Within the Lakewood Park parking lot project, the parking lot lights are going to be replaced with LED lights. We're adding an additional 2 EV charging stations there as well, and we're exploring solar flagpole lights for Veterans Island. So that leads to the next step, which is our path forward. So it's the continuation of improvements that all of this ties into the Climate Action Plan. So we're going to continue to remove fluorescent fixtures and replace with LED strip light fixtures. We're going to replace the HID exterior fixtures to corncob LED. We're going to replace traditional light switches with motion switches. We're exploring and have continued to, when we can, replace 40-gallon hot water tanks with tankless hot water heaters. We're exploring the options and going to be demoing an electric streets tamper. We're working on an analysis of all of the roof conditions now at the wastewater treatment plant to see where those can be upgraded. We're going to replace chillers, air handlers, and rooftop units. We're upgrading the facility air filtration. Both myself and Parks and Properties Division Manager Kurt Mate met with our HVAC contractor and discussed the actual climate action plan in itself and where the city could make additional upgrades there while also taking into consideration cost efficiency. And this year we're taking on the city air handler project. Future purchases, we're in the process of purchasing an energy-efficient electronic paint sprayer, and we plan to order 3 hybrid SUVs for police in 2024 at this time. So the strategy and planning as we move on. Yearly, Public Works explores all energy-efficient options, from vehicles to equipment to building upgrades that work hand-in-hand with the Climate Action Plan. Electric options, and when it comes to EV, we're going to continue researching and analyzing all options. James and I were benefited enough in our discussions with multiple cities to be provided multiple documentations on things that other cities have done as well. So we're continuing to take those steps. We're looking into piloting an electric parks van in the upcoming year. And we're looking at piloting possibly an electric truck for the aging department, keeping in mind that electric upgrades would be needed at Cove, as I had discussed in a previous slide, which could be very, very cost effective. The wastewater collection department demoed a water recycler jet truck this past week, in which the water gets continuously recycled through the jet truck, and you don't have to continuously pick it up. I will say the price with that compared to a regular jet truck was pretty monumental. The Cove generators, we're currently researching battery backup in addition to the generator. We're exploring, as I said earlier, options of an electric streets plate tamper. And we continue to work with the finance department in regards to researching and leasing Ford F-150 EV Lightnings. I will say that at this time, our research showed that price was double of what we currently pay. So again, a lot of factors there. As I said in this slide, cost is significantly more than the current gasoline option lease. And in my discussions with James, the police hybrid vehicles are removed from frontline service. Those vehicles will now be passed down as city pool vehicles. So we'll be cycling out the old police vehicles we have and replacing those with hybrid. So a summary, now that I've talked your ear off, is basically the climate action plan, tying everything into the climate action plan, trying to take all the steps necessary within the climate action plan. The city is looking into hiring a sustainability coordinator. We are obviously, as I said throughout these slides, doing everything we can in regards to analyzing and research, EV conversion, and then the budgetary pace ourselves with our annual lease program. So with that being said, thank you for listening, and we can take any questions.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate all the work that went into this and really explaining how things relate to the climate action plan. And that work certainly hasn't gone unnoticed here. Does anyone have any questions? Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Director Gordon. And I can tell, to echo the chair's comments, you appreciate the effort. It shows. And I think that as we continue in this world of conversion, that each year, I think as you go out on our municipal leasing, capital leasing program, we're going to kind of have to do this research every year, unfortunately. But the financial model changes, the different direct pay tax credits are available. So I'd say it's something we're also going through where I work during the day, similar stuff where we're looking at similar capacity vehicles. One thing, and this relates less to the climate action plan, it's something I've talked about before in the budget presentations, but interested in exploring a little bit, is how we think about kind of the age of the fleet in general across a lot of different departments, and what we, short of just buying new vehicles, are there ways in which we can bring down the age of our fleet? I mean, I'm thinking like the average age, right? So it seems to be that the options the city has most often pursued is you buy a car or you lease it and you keep it all the way through. You eventually, it's useless to the city and you auction it off. Has the city ever considered supplementing with used vehicles or going to auctions to, let's say you take a 15-year vehicle, you sub it out with a 5-year vehicle, that brings down the age of the fleet, maybe not as expensive. That doesn't work in every instance, but I'm just curious if that's a tool we're using to help keep a modern fleet.
Couple things. One, buying used vehicles, I think, was difficult or impossible under the old Board of Control rules. Have to bid it out. How do you bid that out? I think there's impediments there to doing that. I think now we have some flexibility there to be able to do those types of things. Trying to think of what the other part was I wanted to kind of harp on. We have operating leases with enterprise leasing for a number of vehicles also. So we've done that. Originally, kind of the thought is to take them for a year and flip them and get new ones, but you can't get new vehicles, so that really wasn't something that's worked out. But we have those in our fleet, and they're a business partner with us, and we'll continue to explore those options as well. So those are generally funded through the general fund with the operating leases versus the capital leases that go through this program.
And I thank you, and I would suggest, I know it may be unique, and but in the Board of Control, threshold going up to 50,000 does help. I do think there is, and I'd be happy to talk to the law department about it, but a way to basically give council approval to a certain amount of money, to if staff was going to go to a certain auction where they could have a flexibility, on those things, at least so you have the council approval and then some report back afterwards to say what you got. So I'm just saying it's a tool I hope we can utilize because, bringing that age down from average age to 10, down to 8 to 7, that's kind of probably where we want to be. And just only getting new vehicles, I think, is really expensive, and another way to do it is to get used vehicles that fit our needs. So just a plug for that.
And to Councilman Baker's point, I do believe that if council was approached with either, because I believe there's two ways to go about it, like the former way, as Councilman Baker was saying, that if the administration approached council with proposed legislation of granting authority up to a certain amount to purchase used vehicles, or another way is you do a codified ordinance that say, hey, council has provided the authority to administration or to certain departments to purchase used vehicles that are under a certain threshold without further legislative authority. So those are two items that I'm sure if the administration believed that it would be more economically efficient to support the fleet that way, that if it's fully vetted and explained to council, the pros and cons, may be supportive of it. Are there any other questions, comments?
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
I just wanted to point out that we've done some of that too over the past couple of years. We've had ambulance that we brought before you. I think there was a handful of vehicles also on there. We had a committee meeting, special committee meeting, and we got all those passed so that we'd have some ability to go out and get those items that we need. I know the ambulance was used one also, but yeah, thank you.
I see that fire is here in all their glory. I mean, you have any comments you'd like to make, or are you happy just sitting around looking pretty?
Thank
Talking to you specifically, Chief.
Councilman Shack. No, I was just going to say, we're just happy to be here. But the gentleman came tonight to assist in answering any questions. Ryan is the chairman of the apparatus committee, and Nick is also on that committee. And they do their due diligence when it comes to purchasing these vehicles and looking at all options. I don't know if they have anything. Ryan, did you have something that you would like to say?
I didn't, but I guess I do now. No. I'd just like to say thank you for allowing us to be here tonight to at least, explain our side of where we're looking in our vehicles. I could just add on a little bit of what Commissioner Gordon said about, the things that we're doing to get away from those traditional fuels. I know that we have taken a lot of our tools, like our chainsaws, our gas-operated fans. We're switching all of those to battery. Our lights are battery operated now. Those used to be fuel driven, either from the truck or they would run off of a generator. Our next set of Jaws of Life, we're hoping to be battery powered. Those are traditionally run off of a large generator. They're loud, they're obnoxious. Nobody likes to use that generator. It's just, it's very cumbersome, and it's distracting to our crews when they're trying to cut someone out of a car. So those are steps that we're taking, and we're here along for the ride as well. So we want to be good stewards of our taxpayers' dollars as well. So we're just here to keep on trucking down the road,
Right.
keeping the trains on time, as
Yeah.
Chief said.
Anybody else that took the time to be here? LPD, Director Barry? No? All right. Yeah, if you could just hit the button on there. Perfect, you're good.
With the hybrid vehicles that we have, we've had numerous problems with them. I know several officers have had issues where they were responding code 3 or we were involved in a pursuit at high-speed driving, and they've had the vehicles completely shut down on them while they're responding somewhere. And it's happened on more than one occasion. And I think even one time with that happening, I think it puts ourselves in danger as well as it does the public also. If you can't get to a call, we can't help anybody. So and I'm not exactly sure where it goes with that, but my experience with them and the other officers on our department is we are not a fan of them. We don't believe they're good for the police department or good for the public in the way that we have to use them. So, and then going further with all electric vehicles, I know I've read several articles from other police departments with climates similar to ours, where the cold weather will cut the battery time in half on the patrol vehicles, where halfway through the shift, they need to charge the vehicles, and because of the cold weather, they can't even get the vehicle to take a charge. So, if it was to go past hybrids, I think that would even be more detrimental to our department and the public. So,
Thank you. That's very important for
Thank you.
us to know. I really appreciate that. Any other comments, questions? Go ahead.
Thank you. And thank you for this thoughtful presentation. Our climate action plan is very ambitious, and some of the comments we heard from the public was to make sure that after we passed it, we didn't just pass it and say, look at us, but that we're holding ourselves accountable. So thank you for help preparing this and doing that and maintaining that work. I just wondered two things. One, where are we with the sustainability coordinator? I think last we were getting close on that. Is that in process?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. And so as far as the Climate Action Sustainability Coordinator, we are in the process of hiring now. We just started our first round of interviews last week. Those will continue for probably, I think it's the next 2 weeks, followed by, we'll bring in a second round. So we're hoping at this point to have somebody on board beginning of May to start as the Sustainability Coordinator for the city.
Thank you, and that's fantastic. When I was we were just recently looking through the climate action plan. One of the things that we could then check off is that we have made this someone's job, so that would be great. And then one of the other things, because I was just looking at it, is it says that the city will demonstrate or lead the way by moving to zero emissions. 2050, I think, is the deadline. So, and talks about Inflation Reduction Act dollars available for large vehicles, but if those vehicles are not available or not what we need yet, so, I think it's just going to be, as Councilman Baker said, like, we're probably just going to have to keep looking at this each year. So I appreciate the research, and glad we're going to have someone on board who can help carry some of that load. So, thank you.
Thank you. And I also think it's very important for everyone to know what the pros or cons are for each thing, because whether it's good news, bad news, or indifferent, the most important thing we could do for the public, if it's something people don't want to hear, is to at least explain why. And I think that's very important, and I appreciate all the frank discussion. So with that, I'm going to move to recommend for approval this ordinance.
Ordinances, isn't it, technically? Transfers is the next one.
Yeah, we have to do the next one. I'll just do this one.
Second.
All right. All those, all those in favor?
Aye.
Well, that was unnecessary.
Yeah.
But, so that passes. Thank you all. We'll go to the next ordinance on the agenda. This is pretty standard, run-of-the-mill, Q1 transfers. If Director Rankator can provide us just a quick overview over what's being transferred out, what's being advanced out or transferred in, and floor is yours.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. This is, of course, a routine mechanism that we have each quarter in our case, because these were planned as part of the 2024 budget. There appears to be no reason to deviate from that, only in the first quarter so far. There's movements from water and sewer funds to pay our debt. There's also transfers to help subsidize the aging fund for our programming at Cove Community Center, and these are a couple of the transfers that have taken place forever. More recently, we've had a transfer into Winterhurst to address the needs that we have at Winterhurst, both operationally and from a capital perspective. Finally, the last part, of course, is advances in this ordinance. And this process works such that at year end, in this case, the end of 2023, we had a number of funds that were in the negative, and we needed to advance the money from the general fund in order to bring them into legal compliance. So we do that at the end of the year, and then we pay the general fund back in the first quarter, which is what's happening now.
All right. Are there any questions from members of the committee? No? Not members of the committee? No. All right. I will move to recommend this for approval to the full council.
Second.
So that passes. Before we get out of here, I would like to move to that presentation that was made, the PowerPoint for 2024-06, be attached to the minutes. Do that.
So moved, or second.
All right. So that's going to happen if our clerks could work on getting that, if they don't have it already. All right. This meeting's adjourned. Thank you, everybody.